Hello, and welcome back to Neurodifference. In this podcast, I will explore the definition of neurodiversity before going into its history. I will then discuss more about lived experiences and the neurodiversity paradigm before concluding with some takeaways. It is estimated 15 to 20% of the world's population is neurodiverse, and according to a recent article, diagnoses of autism and ADHD are increasing. So what is neurodiversity and why does the term spark debate? I like a quote from Dr. Nick Walker, the neurodiverse academic, when it comes to defining neurodiversity. Neurodiversity is the diversity of human minds, in basic terms, the infinite variation in neurocognitive functioning within our species. It is a fact. There are two paradigms associated with neurodiversity, the neurodiversity paradigm and the pathology paradigm. The pathology paradigm starts from an assumption that involves seeing differences in socio-cultural norms representing some form of deficit, defect, or pathology. The neurodiversity pathology paradigm concerns an aspect of human diversity subject to the same social dynamics as other forms of diversity. Examples of dynamics include social power inequalities and privilege. If anyone would like to learn more about these two terms, I encourage you to read the links in the video description, especially the one about a neuroqueer future. Personally, I find it fascinating. Neurodivergent, going more into the definitions of various terms, I'd like to cover neurodivergent. And neurodivergent is a mind that functions in a way that differs significantly from norms that are considered normal by society. Walker expands on this by saying these functions diverge significantly from the dominant societal standards of normal. Neurotypical, concurrently, falls within the dominant societal standards, by contrast to neurodivergent. Who doesn't love a good origin story, especially after some definitions? According to AMA, the word neurodiversity was first used by activist Judy Singer and journalist Harvey Bloom. The term was used to articulate the needs of autistic people who wanted to be seen as neurologically different, as opposed to being defined by a disability label. I agree with Singer and Bloom's argument. For me, neurodiversity is about difference first and foremost. I think embracing this is critical for us to understand neurodiverse people as well as how the human brain works. Neurodiversity being a difference first and foremost from the typical way of thinking. Bloom notes that neurodiversity may be every bit as crucial for the human race as biodiversity is for life in general. Pretty important subject, am I right? When I worked for an autism charity, there were many reasonable adjustments that helped me with the effects of burnout. These would include delayed work times and my colleagues having basic understanding of burnout, as well as circumstances as to why I would be late. I experienced burnout when I'm asked too much to fit in with other people who I do not see very often. And just so you know, I wasn't always late to work. The other day, I had a conversation with a friend from my childhood. I felt as though he thought of me as a weirdo, someone he didn't know very well, and that put pressure on me to progress the conversation, which felt forced. The effect of this was I felt burnt out later, even when I was speaking to my partner who knows me very well. The more of those conversations I have, the more burnt out I feel later on. For me, using high and low functioning is incorrect. I prefer neurodiverse or neurodivergent. Dr. Walker highlights a phrase, neurodiversity is a load of nonsense. Dr. Walker then goes on to highlight that there's an awful lot of scientific evidence that shows quite plainly that there's considerable variation among human brains. I think he counters it brilliantly. Next, I would like to go into the question of how I show up as an ally to neurodiverse people. That is a question that is always evolving for me. I think it is very important for me to demonstrate my own lived experience of neurodiversity and academic research that supports my experiences. An example of this would be to be supported by neurodiverse supporting organizations. While I am learning a lot about this, I know what it means for it to be done wrong. Autism Speaks in the 2000s poured lots of funding into cure-based autism research. This led, in the words of Steve Silberman, to autistic people challenging a conversation about autism in mainstream media without the help of a parent-run organization that claimed to speak for them. Always ally with individuals and organizations that support neurodiverse people. I would also like to encourage you to not use high and low functioning as a label for autistic people and those with ADHD. Exploring more about the neurodiversity paradigm, there is evidence that the paradigm can positively change outcomes. People with dyslexia have been found to possess global visual spatial abilities, including the capacity to identify impossible objects, process low definition or blurred visual scenes, and perceive peripheral or diffused visual information more quickly and efficiently than participants without dyslexia. A mouthful, I know. And these visual spatial gifts may be advantageous in jobs requiring three-dimensional thinking, such as astrophysics, molecular biology, genetics, engineering, and computer graphics. The same can be said of autistic individuals too. A shift to the neurodiversity paradigm could be said of technology companies. Technology companies have been aggressively recruiting people with autism for occupations that involve systemizing tasks such as writing computer manuals, managing databases, and searching for bugs in computer code. This is an example of an area of work where the neurodiversity paradigm would work to its optimum along with the third sector. The reasonable adjustments that I mentioned before in my previous job enable me to work at my best. Another adjustment was having a support worker who I could bounce ideas off. This adjustment made my job so much easier because I could test the validity of my scripts. The neurodiversity paradigm can make a massive difference to people's lives. So now I'd like to go on to a few takeaways from this episode. In terms of language, I will do my best to use neurodivergent for individuals instead of high and low functioning. I shall also do my best to be conscious of using language advised by Dr. Walker. For example, using the phrase, "Our school offers multiple learning strategies to accommodate the neurodiversity of our student body" would help a lot. By accommodating neurodiverse individuals, all of us can take one step towards developing society's understanding of neurodiversity. Together, let's make a positive neurodifference in the world.